Hi, everybody. In my research methods class, I'm so sorry for the interruption to our normal schedule today. I'm back on campus this week as we have gone back to in-person learning, and apparently a rat chewed through the internet cable in the HSS building where my office and all my classes are, and there have been a bunch of connectivity issues. And so my Wi-Fi was not strong enough to allow me to stream on Twitch. It kept booting me out. So I'm just going to record a little video going over some of the feedback from last week and the reminders as if we were doing a Twitch session. And then we will resume our normal stuff next week. Hopefully the internet will be all fixed and everything will be better. If not, I will try and find a way around it. So we are in week number 6 this week, but I do want to talk just a little bit about last week before we get into what's due. And I'm still going to let you be able to do the extra credit. Obviously, you can't put your name in the chat, but that's okay. You can still answer the question on Canvas this week, kind of a freebie in that way. And then on top of that, if you do think of any questions, feel free to go ahead and email me. So let's go back to week number 5 and just talk a little bit about what I saw last week from all of you. We were covering chapter 3, part 1, kind of getting into some of the more core materials that we have going on for the semester. You had a discussion number 5 that was due last week. And I have to tell you that overall, I was really impressed. Now, this was a little bit more challenging of an assignment. You were looking at an article and answering some questions about it. And a lot of you just really nailed this. And those of you who didn't were very close. So I was very happy to see overall the progress that a lot of you have made. So you were summarizing this article on 8 ways that screens are ruining your family life. I think a topic that a lot of us can maybe connect to in some way. Most of you did a beautiful job summarizing the article in a couple of sentences. And then thinking about the 3 claims, number 2 was where people struggled the most. Okay, and this is a little bit challenging. And so in the lecture, I talked a lot about correlation versus causation. And when we think about this question here, what type of claim is the author making? And then is it accurate or justified? Does it actually match the type of claim that they are able to make? And so the type of claim that the author is making, most of you caught on that the article is making a causal claim in the headline. But the thing that I really wanted you to pick up on was that it should have been an association claim. So despite the fact that they make a causal claim that one is causing the other, they don't actually manipulate any variables. They don't make any effort to establish control or eliminate confounds. And there's also a lack of concrete definitions and measurements of several concepts. So despite the fact that they make a causal claim, the kind of claim that they are justified to make would be an association one. Remember that correlation does not equal causation. Just because 2 things are connected doesn't mean that we can infer cause. And so I really wanted you to pick up on that. About half of you did. And the other half of you nicely critiqued some of the things that happened and some of the issues. But I really wanted you to see that just because 2 things were connected doesn't mean that they're justified in saying they cause each other. That they needed to have deliberately manipulated variables. They needed to try and establish some of that control in order to be able to make that kind of claim. So thinking about this, I tried to give you a tip. Were the variables measured or manipulated? They were just measured, right? And so there wasn't any kind of manipulation that occurred. So we can't infer cause. If you didn't quite get this right, don't kick yourself. Don't feel bad. It's okay. This was a little bit challenging, but I wanted you to see that many articles and headlines wrongly infer or kind of put out there that they can cause each other, when in reality, it's more of an association. A wonderful job on finding examples in the text in terms of things that needed to be operationalized. There were several different terms that you could have come up with, so really nicely done on that one. And also nicely done thinking about third variables and directionality, looking at how one could cause the other could be manipulating it, or maybe there was something altogether different that was playing a role. As I said, overall, I was very impressed, feeling like a proud parent. A lot of you did a beautiful job of critiquing and analyzing and identifying the different components in this article. So nicely done. And I tried to give you some feedback if you missed any of these, in addition to the rubric, so that you could understand what to do better moving forward. So that was the big thing that you earned points on last week. The other little thing that you had was that first self-assessment. I really appreciated the honesty that a lot of you put into this. Some of you saying like, well, I could have studied a little bit more, and appreciating the study guide. Those were pieces of feedback I saw a lot. A lot of you putting in, a healthy amount of time to the class. So I hope that that chance to reflect is helpful for you as we move into this next fourth of the class and move toward that next exam, next homework assignment, and so on. A lot of you also did good on the extra credit question. I was looking for you to identify that you could portray or represent a correlation both in the terms of a scatter plot and also with Pearson's R. Some of you talked about like positive, negative, and zero correlation. My tip to you is what are the 2 ways that you could portray this? If you talked about different types of correlation, there are 3 of them. So I was looking for you to talk about Pearson's R, that we can represent it as a number between -1 and +1, or that we could represent a correlation in terms of a scatter plot. So I gave you partial credit if you talked about something that wasn't quite correct. But otherwise, we move on this week to week number 6. We're talking about chapter 3, part 2. So make sure that you read those pages in the book. You're also going to want to, of course, read through the lecture. So as always, you have the learning objectives, a summary. So we're looking at how different types of claims are evaluated and how we can look at those a little bit more. The Beyond the Book, talking a little bit more about experiments versus correlational studies. And then we're getting heavily into this idea of independent versus dependent variables, and also the 4 big validities. So we definitely are getting into some very like core concepts this week. Independent versus dependent variables is a big one. Correlation versus experiments, something that we'll build on and talk about all semester long. But identifying independent and dependent variables. And I shared this with you, I think, in the lecture, but just one more time. A little trick that I learned a long time ago is to ask this question with any study to try and figure out what the independent and dependent variables are. If you ask yourself, what is the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable? You can kind of turn whatever the study was about into that. So what was the effect of alcohol on memory? What was the effect of sleep on mood, right? And that will help you to identify the independent and dependent variables. And then a couple of examples that I have for you here to try and help. And then there are quite a few examples as well in the textbook. So make sure you read through all of this. Here are all the key terms that you need to know for the exam. Sorry, I'm not sure why those images aren't showing up, but I'll look into that in a moment. But make sure that you know all of these terms from chapter 3, part 2 for our next exam in a few weeks. So read through or listen to all of this. And then as usual, you're going to want to watch the lecture video that I have for you with PowerPoint slides. So since there weren't any outside clips, I was able to post this on YouTube. So make sure that you watch this and take notes and really pay attention. The materials here will definitely appear on the next exam. A couple of other things for this week. We do have our second homework assignment this week. And it's very much building on the things that we're talking about for this week's lecture. So we're going to look a lot at those topics of independent and dependent variables and so on. So let's talk about this together just for a few minutes here. Open this up. So same as last time, this is worth 25 points. And you're going to submit it right here on this page. So when you're ready to do that, you'll hit Start Assignment up here at the top. And that will allow you to upload any of these files, doc, docx, PDF, or RTF. This is worth 25 points, and it's due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. The point of this assignment is to help you practice with determining the different types of validities, also identifying independent and dependent variables, and their different levels and operational definitions. So very much practicing the things that we learned last week, along with the things that we're focusing on this week. So in terms of length and formatting, this should be roughly 1 to 2 pages, standard margin, standard font, double spaced. Make sure that you number and label your responses. Make it really easy for me to see your responses. You don't want me to be searching for it and maybe not see it. So make it very simple for me to see. On the following page or down below here, what you'll see are 5 questions that I want you to answer. And these relate to finding the different types of validities and identifying the different components. So you'll read each one of these scenarios, and then you'll answer all 5 of them in the paper that you turn into me. This is due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. You can submit it late. You won't be able to do it here on Canvas, but if you submit it late, it is 10% off per day. And I think that date is right. So sorry, I'm just checking here. It's actually the 20th. Let me change that here while we're in this assignment together. Sorry for the confusion. It looks like I put the wrong dates. I only know that the date was wrong because I'm going out of town this weekend, and so I knew that that date was incorrect. Where did it go? Now I can't. Oh, here it is. I'm like, no, I can't find it as you're staring at me. All right, so I'm just updating that really quickly to make sure that there's no confusion. But otherwise, let's look at the questions and things that you're doing for this week. Again, 5 different scenarios and questions building on what we've learned. Number 1, I want you to read the short scenario below and then name and explain which type of validity each doctor is addressing in their questions. Each doctor is addressing a different type of validity. We've talked about a few of them this week. So here we go. Dr. Lopez and his colleagues, Dr. Jefferson and Dr. Shaw, are discussing the following headline. Playing video games leads to an increase in growth mindset in college students. So Dr. Lopez, Dr. Jefferson, and Dr. Shaw have many concerns together, but separately they have different concerns, and so you're going to identify what they correlate with. So Dr. Lopez utters, did the researcher randomly sample from all college students, or did he just study his own college students in his classes? Maybe this finding just holds true for his students for some reason. Dr. Shaw added to the discussion by asking, it's so strange that playing video games would cause an increase in growth mindset. Did the researchers conduct an experiment or just a correlational study? If it's correlational, a third variable could be increasing video game playing as well as growth mindset. Dr. Jefferson asks, an increase in growth mindset can mean so many things. How did they operationalize an increase in growth mindset? So looking at these 3 different doctors, I want you to identify the different types of validity that each one of these doctors is concerned about and addressing. So that is number 1, and this will be, you will see a question very similar to this on our next exam. So this is great practice. And then for the remaining questions, you're going to identify the independent variable and its levels, and the dependent variable and how it's being operationalized or measured. So you'll read each one of these, and you're going to identify what is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable. For the independent variable, what are the different conditions or levels of it that the person could be exposed to? And for the dependent variable, how are we measuring it? How are we operationalizing that as well? So here we go, number 2. A pharmacologist is testing whether a new anti-anxiety medication, MoodCore, great name, will cause people to gain weight. To test this, she gives 100 people MoodCore for 1 month and 100 people a placebo drug for 1 month. At the end of the month, she monitors any weight gain by having them weigh in on a scale. So in this scenario, what is the independent variable and its different conditions or levels that people could be exposed to? There are 2, just as a hint. And then what is the dependent variable and how are we measuring that outcome? Number 3, a clinical psychologist hypothesizes that listening to an inspirational tape will lead to one being in a better mood. To test this, she has 50 people listen to an hour-long inspirational tape. Another 50 listen to white noise for an hour. She then has them rate their mood on a 10-point scale. So on. That's what you'll do for all of these remaining 2, 3, 4, and 5. You'll read through it. You identify the independent variable and its conditions or levels, and then the dependent variable and how they are measuring it. So all in all, this probably will be about a page. This one's a little bit shorter in the terms of what you're typing up, but your answers to all of these are great practice and should really give you a chance to apply what you have learned this week. So make sure that you're reading through these, identifying all those elements and conditions and operationalizations. You'll upload that as a file when you're done and ready. And this is due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. If you have any questions about this, feel free to email me since you can't ask me right now live on Twitch. But that is a big source of points for this week. So make sure that you're working on the homework assignment. The other thing, I'm scrolling back down here to week 6. You do have the optional Twitch extra credit, of course, as always this week. So let me give you these couple of reminders and pieces of information. And I can't type them, so I'm just going to go ahead and say them verbally to you. So for this week, remember to do all these items by Sunday night. So read the chapter in the book, the second half of chapter 3. Read through the lecture, watch the lecture video, complete discussion number 6 and homework assignment number 2, and then the optional Twitch extra credit if you would like. Our next Twitch live stream will be next Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. And again, hopefully everything will be working. They're working hard on fixing the problem, as you can imagine. So next Thursday morning, the 24th at 10 o'clock, we will have that live stream. An incredible number of you fell off on your subscriptions over the last week or two. Please take a moment to try and check and renew that before I see you next week, just to help save me that time. I really appreciate it. And again, a lot of you have fallen off over that time. And then the optional Twitch extra credit question for this week, if you would like to go for it, is what are the big 4 validities? List and define all 4 of them. What are the big 4 validities that we talked about this week? And then list and define all 4 of them. And you don't need to worry about putting your name in the chat. So if you want to go for that question, you'll just start assignment up here at the top. And then you can type your response right here in the text box and hit submit assignment. So this is due anytime before, what are those pandas? Panda bears. This is due anytime before Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So please feel free to do this, get those 2 points of extra credit. Otherwise, make sure that you are starting on all the materials for this week. Doesn't want to let me go back here. That's so strange. Let's leave student view. Clicking too many times, I got impatient. Again, the internet is kind of being a little difficult here on campus. So make sure you do all these components for this week. You have the little wrap-up checklist if you want to double check. But otherwise, that is it. Thank you for watching this short video. I'm so sorry again that we weren't able to do our Twitch like usual. I missed the interaction with all of you. So we will hope that everything is back to normal next week. But please be sure to complete all of that. Email me if you have any questions. I hope you have a fantastic long weekend. We have no school on Monday. And so there's a great chance that I actually won't grade anything until Tuesday night, since we do have that holiday. I'm going to Las Vegas, so I'm very excited about that. Taking my kids to see Blue Man Group, and hopefully they will have a great time. So I likely won't grade the materials from this week until Tuesday night. So don't worry if you don't see that on Monday. So I will hope to see you all next week. Thank you again, and I'm sorry so much for the interruption in our normal time. And have a wonderful, wonderful week and a wonderful long weekend.